bio first. So Sophia Mona Lisa is a life coach and an alchemical creation high priestess. I hope I said that right. Alchemical creation high priestess. As a soul being, she's a star seed on the diamond ray and is both galactic and angelic. Her galactic heritage is Palladian, which is healer, and her Arcturian is defender. Her angelic heritage is from the Seraphim. She is a walk-in that has come from 128,000 years in the future to help bridge humanity back to love. As a Sophia code holder, her sole purpose is to assist worlds in transitioning from separation consciousness to unity consciousness. On Gaia, Sophia Mona Lisa is an alchemical creation high priestess and shamanic priestess of the Magdalene Mysteries School, founded by Nicole Christine. In addition, she's a certified breath of love practitioner, a certified Jara practitioner, and a solfeggio sound therapy practitioner. She has been an ordained minister through the Universal Life Church since 2003. And Sophia Mona Lisa is the founder of both the Golden Ray Center, an Aquarian age goddess temple established to restore the culture of sovereignty and sacred relationship, and the Rose Wheel Mystery School, an Aquarian age mystery school under the umbrella of the Golden Ray Center. She teaches both sacred feminine and sacred masculine classes through the mystery school. And then for today's topic, it is the second coming of Christ as the emergence of Sophia through humanity. So thank you, Sophia Mona Lisa. Thank you so much for coming and helping us with this beautiful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I'm very appreciative to Nancy for inviting me. This is all really a part of the 2022 Galactic New Earth Project that I was tasked with by the Cosmic Sophia this past January. And if all of the participants have seen that invitation video that I was hoping everybody could watch before tonight, that tells you about the project. This is the story before or that led up to actually me being tasked with this project, just so that I think it's an important story to know, to understand how this all unfolded, because it's not something that just happened one day. There was a whole unfolding that I think is an interesting story. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at Rose's solar return chart and natal chart in specific relationship to the aspects that are going to be in the sky next Monday when we have the next gate activation. And so if you watched that video, you understand now that the gate activation happens when the moon and Venus come together in the sky. We call that a conjunction. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that. But right now, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Get my slides going here. All right. So all of this is related to this topical theme, the second coming of Christ as the emergence of Sophia through humanity. And hopefully by the end of this discussion, you'll understand how it all ties together. So this is kind of an outline of some of the key events that were unfolding as early as 1993. I attended a seminary in Tahlequah, Oklahoma called the Sancta Sophia Seminary. It was a Christian esoteric seminary. And we talked a lot about the Sophia, divine wisdom, consciousness through our classes there. And so I was already familiar with Sophia, which a lot of people in our Western culture may not be, because it's a part of the divinity that got lost in Eastern, like Russia and Eastern Bloc countries and those Orthodox churches. They still talk about Sophia, divine wisdom. In fact, the Book of Solomon is songs to Sophia. So they're very aware of Sophia, but here in the Western world, a lot of that knowledge has been lost. So fast forward from 1993, I began my shamanic priestess process. And this book here, Under Her Wings, The Making of a Magdalene, is an excellent book written by Nicole Christine. Nicole Christine is the woman who brought through this shamanic priestess process, and it ties back to the Magdalene mystery schools. And then when I completed that in September 2016, I started my alchemical creation high priestess process, a part of this same mystery school. Now, this book here, Nancy Safford, she's one of the priestess sisters from this lineage, and she wrote this book, A Magdalene Awakens, Hidden Temple Secrets. And this book is specifically about her journeys to the Venus temple that is in France, which happens to be the Venus temple that we're going to be activating this month in March, next week. And she had her own experiences with the Magdalene there. And I had, as a part of doing my alchemical creation high priestess process, had read this book. And so by the time we had our goddess gathering in May of 2017, Nancy was there. She was talking to me about the tours that she was doing at the time to France. And I was very much already in this mindset of, I need to go to France. I need to take this Magdalene tour, go through this journey. So sure enough, in September of 2019, I got to make that trip with her. And while we were there, let me fast forward here. Oh, here, this is a map of what that landscape Venus temple is. So there's these points in the landscape there that make this symbol of the pentagram. And the pentagram, the 5-pointed star, is a very, very ancient symbol for the sacred feminine. And I had already also read this book, The Holy Place by Henry Lincoln, that discusses this landscape Venus temple in detail. And you'll see that this is outside one of the points here, Rennes-le-Château, and Bougueroc is another place that we went to here, right here on this Venus temple. So while we were there, right near Rennes-le-Château is another little town called Rennes-les-Bains. And in Rennes-les-Bains, up on the mountain, there is this stone that is over 5,000 years old, and it's called the seat of Isis. And further up the mountain is this other stone. This is called the seat of Osiris. So while we were there, we actually each took turns sitting in the seat of Isis. And this is a literal vortex that's on the planet. The moment you sit in this seat, you're swept into this vortex. And when I had this experience, I was very aware that I was undergoing what I would call a multi-dimensional attunement. And this blog post that I wrote here, and I can put the link in the description, talks about the attunement that happened. But the main thing to take away from this attunement is, we've got the Piscean age, we've got the Aquarian age. We have all of these archetypes that we've been dealing with. In the Piscean age, we talked about the twin flame archetype, which represented Yeshua and Magdalene and their relationship with each other as twin flames coming together in what they called Hieros Gamos, sacred union or sacred marriage. But that archetype was the Piscean archetype. And through this attunement that I received, what I was being given was the Aquarian twin flame archetype. And that Aquarian twin flame archetype is the archetype of divine creation. So this was a huge piece that happened that is on the journey of this whole unfolding of the second coming of Christ as the emergence of Sophia. And I encourage everybody to go back and read that blog post in full, because it goes into great length about that. So after that trip to France, I came back, and in July 2020, that was September 2019 when we went to France. In July 2020, I began the Sacred Feminine classes that I was teaching. And those Sacred Feminine classes were aligned with the Venus Synodic Cycle. And the way that the Venus Synodic Cycle works is every 19 months, it goes through an astrological sign, and it goes through the 5 points of the pentagram, and that takes 8 years, and that creates a rose in the sky. And that Venus Synodic Cycle is divided into 4 phases. We have what's called the morning star phase, which is the descent journey. We have the Inanna underworld phase. We have the evening star phase, which is the ascent journey. And we have the metamorphic underworld phase. It was in March of last year, during that Inanna underworld phase, that I received messages from Yeshua and from Magdalene telling me that during this phase, there's a point called a resurrection point. This is the point where the sun and Venus come together. That at this resurrection point, what was transpiring within humanity is the resurrection of the Christ and the Sophia within humanity at this resurrection point. And so what I did is I went back, this ties back in 1993, going to Sancta Sophia Seminary. This is an image of that seminary. This is the image of Carol Parrish Hara, who was the founder of that seminary. This book, The Most Holy Christo-Sophia, I started reading through again, just to refamiliarize myself with what I had learned when I was at Sancta Sophia about the Sophia. And in fact, Carol Parrish here has written the foreword to this book. And so from the information in here, which is very much harkens back to Rudolf Steiner's work, I was able to see how the information in this book was really kind of out of date in terms of how we have evolved as humanity. And so I was able to put together these slides that I'm going to show you here to help me create clarity and to discern the information that I was receiving from Yeshua and from Magdalene and from the information in that book. So I'm sure everybody's familiar with this yin-yang symbol. And I see this yin-yang symbol as a depiction of what I call the unified source field, that which most people call God, that which all things are created from. And the yin here is the sacred feminine principle, and the yang here is the sacred masculine principle. And the piece here that is really spectacular is that this image is showing that old Piscean twin flame archetype of Hieros Gamos, sacred union, sacred marriage. You've got the sacred masculine principle married to the sacred feminine principle. And here it's showing that the sacred feminine principle is married to the sacred masculine principle. It's a union that cannot be torn asunder. It cannot be. When you speak of the sacred feminine, you are also speaking of the sacred masculine. When you are speaking of the sacred masculine, you are also speaking of the sacred feminine. for most people, maybe thinking about like two sides of the same coin, head and tail. If I pass you a quarter, I don't say I'm passing you the tail of the quarter or the head of the quarter. I tell you I'm passing the quarter because of that, the nature of that union that's taking place. So if you think about the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine that's depicted in this yin yang, what we see here is we've got two holy trinities. The sacred masculine principle is depicted by the upward facing triangle. And this is the Trinity of Christ that most people are familiar with. The Father aspect, the Son aspect, the Holy Spirit. And this Christ that we refer to is a consciousness. And the frequency of that Christ consciousness is divine will. But likewise, we have our sacred feminine principle, and it too has a holy trinity. And so we have a mother aspect, we have a daughter aspect, we have a holy soul aspect. And this trinity, as I said, has long since been forgotten. In some of the ancient churches in the Eastern Bloc countries, Russia, so forth, they remember this, but we've got this Sophia consciousness as a consciousness, and her consciousness is the frequency of divine wisdom. And so hearkening back to that Piscean archetype of sacred union, what we get here is when the two come together is we have a symbol that's very familiar to us known as the Star of David. And this union between the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine principles is again another depiction of that source, the unified source field, another depiction of that yin yang symbol that's showing us the aspects of the masculine and feminine, father and mother, son and daughter, Holy Spirit, Holy Soul. Now, this is important to understand because what we need to recognize is that this two-dimensional picture of the Sophia Christ consciousness that is the unified source field, we recognize in a 3D picture as a star tetrahedron, or what some people call a Merkaba. And this star tetrahedron in its 3D depiction is actually a fractal of this 3D depiction of the flower of life, which is, as the unified source field, a hologram, which is why we, as embodiments of the Sophia Christ consciousness, are a fractal of that hologram. So is that making sense to everybody so far?
That's amazing. Yeah, yes, that's incredible.
So
I see.
Yeah, so as soul beings, we are an embodiment of that Sophia Christ consciousness. But this knowledge has been lost. And so this was the way that I could take the information that was being given to me in March of 2021, when I was given that message by Yeshua and Magdalene, that we are now undergoing this second coming of Christ as the emergence of the Sophia, cosmic Sophia, that Sophia consciousness through each one of us. And the reason that was important is because when you go from the Inanna underworld to the next phase of the Venus Synodic Cycle, you have the ascent journey. And this ascent journey it starts here at the root chakra and it moves all the way up to the soul star chakra. So this slide here is the information that I was given during that Inanna underworld period of how this emergence of Sophia through us was going to take place. Again, at each of these gate activations, Venus and Moon in the sky, during that ascent phase, we were activating each one of these chakras. So at the root chakra, we were given access to the mother aspect of Sophia, which gives us access to the spiritual gift of sovereignty consciousness. And at the sacral chakra, we are given access to the realm, the domain, the dimension, whatever you want to call it, the daughter aspect of Sophia, and the spiritual gift of ahimsa consciousness, which ahimsa is a Sanskrit word that means nonviolence, and nonviolence is love and understanding. And each month, as each one of these chakras were being activated, we were going through this ascent process and allowing this emergence of this Sophia consciousness to happen with us during what was known as the Gemini goddess journey. Now, Gemini as an astrological sign is an air sign. So as an air sign, all of this was happening in the realm of consciousness. Right now, we're in what's known as the Capricorn goddess journey. Capricorn is an earth sign. Earth signs deal with the realm of manifestation. So here we had this whole ascent journey happening within us through the realm of consciousness. Now we're in the descent journey of the Capricorn goddess. All of this is now coming into play in the realm of consciousness, which again is why this project showed up, because this 3D world is the realm of manifestation. So at the heart chakra, where we have this sacred union between what we have up here at the soul star, the Christ, at the earth star, Sophia, what happens is they are electromagnetically drawn together to bring them into unity, right? The Christ consciousness is an electrical energy. The Sophia consciousness is a magnetic energy, and that electromagnetic force draws them together to bring them into unity here in your heart chakra. When they come into union in that heart chakra, the manifestation of their union is divine love. And it's really important to understand this, because a lot of people will talk about Christ as divine love, but it's kind of a mishmash of information. We know that Christ is divine will, Sophia is divine wisdom, and when they're drawn together, the manifestation of that union is divine love. And so what's happened, because this Sophia information has been lost, people have been talking about Christ, but they don't understand that when they're talking about Christ, they're also talking about Sophia. And when you talk about Sophia, you're also talking about Christ. And this is how some of these concepts have kind of gotten misinterpreted, because they know that there's divine love, but they don't recognize that that divine love is the manifestation of the Christ and the Sophia together. So this is really important information to clarify, to kind of break down and clarify. So then at the throat chakra, what happens is, so we've gone through the three aspects of the Sophia here in these lower chakras, that trinity. Once we move past the heart chakra, which is, by the way, where you can access your inner Christo-Sophia, and also the divine gift of prema consciousness. Prema means love in Sanskrit. That's where that pure love is. Now we start to, in these upper chakras, we start to be able to access the trinity of the Christ, the three aspects of the Christ. So here at the throat chakra, we have access to the Holy Spirit aspect of Christ and this spiritual gift of Satya consciousness. Satya is the Sanskrit word for truth, and truth is love in speech. And the reason this is highlighted right now on this slide is because the gate activation that we're getting ready to have next week is activating this throat chakra. Then in the third eye, you access the sun aspect of Christ and the spiritual gift of Shanti consciousness. Shanti being the Sanskrit word for peace, and peace is love in thought. And at the crown chakra, you have the father aspect of Christ, and this is where you can access the spiritual gift of unity consciousness. So this whole pathway for the emergence of Sophia through us as humanity, through our energetic centers that we call our chakras, which are our access points to our multidimensional reality, to our multidimensional self. All of this information was revealed to me during that Inanna underworld experience. And as I said, we went through this entire ascent journey last year of this coming in through the realm of consciousness. So then what happened was in January of this year, we reached that metamorphic phase of the Venus Synodic Cycle, the final phase of that Gemini goddess journey, where the Gemini goddess gets morphed into what is now the Capricorn goddess. And it was during that phase that Sophia revealed to me that we were going to be doing this Galactic New Earth Project. And as I said, if you watch that video, that is the invitation to that project, it talks about that project and its relationship to these gate activations each month. So we've already done the gate activation at the crown chakra and the gate activation at the third eye chakra. That was January and February. Now we're getting ready to do the gate activation at the throat chakra. And this particular Venus temple is going to be in Rennes-le-Château, France. That same landscape Venus temple that I showed you the image of right back here. This same landscape Venus temple is the temple that we'll be traveling to in our etheric bodies to do the initiation ceremony to install the rose gold Christo-Sophia light codes at this particular Venus temple. We're doing that on Monday, March 28th. So what's really important to understand about that is when you have an activation, what happens is not only do you have the Venus and Moon together in a conjunction in the sky, but you have other astrological aspects going on in the sky. And each month when there's a gate activation, there are different astrological aspects happening. These are the aspects that are going to happen on this gate activation next week. And what's really important to know is because Sophia is emerging through us, humanity, that as these light codes are coming in through the galactic center, these are codes that have never before been birthed into our galaxy. These specific astrological aspects that are happening on that day are informing those Sophia Christ codes. But these aspects are also activating each one of us individually in terms of our natal chart and our solar return chart. And so however we are being activated individually by these aspects, we each as unique manifestations are also informing the light codes that are being installed at the Venus temple. So this is really important to understand how absolutely dynamic and how absolutely powerful this project is in terms of installing these Christo-Sophia light codes. Now, the amazing thing about it is whether anybody has ever heard of this or not, it's still happening. They, on the soul level, are still contributing because they have their own unique natal chart and their own unique solar return chart that's being activated by the aspects in the sky on the date of the gate activations. But think about how much more powerful it is if you choose to consciously engage that activation by being aware of how the aspects in the sky are activating you and what your contribution to the light codes being installed in the Venus temples is. So to give you an example of that, I'm going to show you, well, this was Nancy's chart. She's not here today, so I won't spend a lot of time on this, but I want you to notice how Nancy's chart here looks very different from Rose's chart here. And I am going to take time to speak to Rose's chart so that she can understand, and you'll get a sense of how each person is individually contributing to these Christo-Sophia light codes and to the codes that are being installed at the Venus temple. So if I go back here, I just want to point out the aspect. The main aspect here is this Venus moon conjunction. And what's in the sky with Venus and moon is Juno and Saturn. Well, you know the planet Saturn, but you probably don't know the asteroid Juno. And Juno represents the goddess Juno. And the goddess Juno has to do with sacred relationship. And this conjunction between these four luminary bodies is happening in Aquarius at 21 degrees. And so it itself is aspecting various luminary bodies in the sky. So each of these types of aspects is very specific in terms of the degrees that they make to each other and what the influence is, but you don't need to worry about that. But what we see is that we've got an influence to a Jupiter-Neptune conjunction that's happening in Pisces. We have an aspect to the North Node and the ascendant of that chart that's happening in Taurus. We have an aspect to Isis, who represents the cosmic Sophia, happening in Gemini. And we have an aspect to Yeshua, which represents your inner Christ, right? Your embodiment of Christ, happening in Cancer, which is why when I show you Rose's chart, everything in purple here, those are the different aspects. Right here, this is the glyph for Aquarius. This is where that gate activation is happening, and it's happening right on or right next to Rose's natal Saturn. So let me just take a moment here to explain what you're seeing in this pictogram. This inner circle is Rose's natal astrology chart, meaning where these luminary bodies were located in the sky at her time of birth. This outer ring is her solar return chart. You get a new solar return chart every birthday, right? Because it takes the sun a year to go around and come back to the same place in the sky. So every year that you get a new solar return chart, it is mapping out for you what your ascension path is for this next year. And while this picture looks very static, believe me, it's very dynamic, because anything that's happening in the sky at any time is interfacing with this image, which we see as 2D, but remember, we're multidimensional beings. So this is really a multidimensional map of your particular soul that has incarnated. So what's happening in the sky is either going to aspect something here in your solar return chart, or something in your natal chart, or sometimes something both. But what's really incredible here is that the gate activation is happening right where Rose's natal Saturn is, and her natal Saturn is in the sign of Aquarius. What does that mean? Saturn as a planet is the cosmic gatekeeper. Nothing can be made manifest on our planet unless it comes through Saturn. All the frequencies out there in the intangible realm come through Saturn and become manifest on our planet. So you could think of it kind of like a birthing womb, right? That a woman births through the child. And so Saturn has to do with your mastery, who you are as a master, who you are as a manifester, who you are as a wisdom keeper and a way shower. And so for you, Rose, this gate activation is taking who you are as a wisdom keeper, as a master, and it's like kicking it up a notch. You know how that chef would go bam, and it would kick it up a notch, right? He'd throw those. This is what's happening to you energetically. You've got the Venus and the moon there. You've got Saturn there. So that's even amplifying it even more. And you've got Juno, the goddess of sacred partnership. Your ability to tap into who you came in as a master and a wisdom keeper, you are being given this whole new relationship with, in terms of Juno as the sacred partnership goddess, enabling you to be able to tap into that part of yourself. Notice that it's in your 12th house. The 12th house is the house in which you feel shackled, where you feel imprisoned, where you are not able to feel liberated. And so oftentimes what shackles us is our wounds, whether they're emotional wounds, mental wounds. They keep us from stepping into our full sovereignty. And with this gate activation, it's basically giving you those keys to freedom, where you can open that jail cell or open those handcuffs and free yourself and liberate yourself. And here in Aquarius, that's what that energy is all about. Liberation, being finally liberated from anything that has been holding you back up to this point. Did that make sense to you?
I'm trying to, I guess I'm thinking of where I'm working and my career as an acupuncturist, and wanting to work with my husband, Bill. And maybe this is the time now where we'll be free. I'm hoping this year. My lease is up in November, that we both work together. And that was amazing what Carol Billett said about how we were both warriors in a past life. We had that looked like God armor or some sort, or Roman Empire.
And you mentioned in your previous slides that it was a rose gold.
Rose gold?
Rose. Her name is Rose Owl, and her maiden name. So AU is gold.
Yeah, I just thought that was the oddest thing.
And then it's kind of like maybe this is like aligning for a reason.
And I kept thinking it has to be no coincidence, because Nancy asked, "Did you want to get a star with a?"
Absolutely. Absolutely, Rose. And I find it fascinating that you're kind of talking about the work that you're doing, because Saturn as a planet is the ruler of Capricorn. And Capricorn has to do with the work that we're known for. And so it's natural that you would be relating this information to the work that you're doing.
Yeah. Okay. Where did she go?
She popped in.
She popped in. I just saw her, Sophia.
There she goes.
Oh, here we go. Started. Oof. Sophia, can you hear us?
It's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
Here we go.
unmute.
Ooh. Okay. Unmute, Sophia, when you're ready. Too much energy. When she said Rose, I said my last name was Gold, Rose Gold. I guess that just blew it. I must have been it. Sophia, could you unmute yourself? I think she's still getting. Let's see. There we go.
Okay, I'm talking to myself over here. Sorry about that.
No, thank you. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I just got dropped out. So what I was saying when I got dropped out, and I don't know what you heard, is that it's fascinating to me that you were relating that specific information to the work that you're doing. And the reason that's fascinating to me is because Saturn as a planet is the ruler of the sign Capricorn, and Capricorn has to do with the work that we do in the world. So what I would say is that, one, the work that you do in the world is got this Aquarius overtone. So it's very much work that you're doing for the collective consciousness of humanity. It's work that will probably, from this point forward, if it isn't already on the world stage, will start to reach a global audience. Anything that has been interfering, right, keeping you shackled, that's what that 12th house is, holding you back. Okay, you've got the keys now. You've been liberated from that spell. And now you will probably experience your work starting to move ahead very, very rapidly because of this gate activation that's happening. Also because the sacred partnership of Juno being in here, and the question that you asked Carol earlier of Yeshua, the fact that the two of you and your sacred partnership can start to manifest now through this work, because Juno, the goddess of sacred partnership, is a part of that activation for you.
Wow. We've been praying for this for years. It just never was able to, for whatever reason, but
everything always happens in divine timing. So this is going to be it. And remember that this gate activation is the throat chakra. And as we go through the descent journey, what's happening is any energies, any frequencies that are there in the throat chakra that is in any way interfering with your ability to speak your truth is being cleared out.
Wow.
Bingo.
Oh my God. That makes sense.
I always felt that she's doing a service not only for the collective consciousness, but her culture, her people have had their throats, collective throats, silence.
Yeah, and so, I'm getting a whole flood of energy to affirm that for you. And so again, Saturn as the wisdom keeper, the tribal elder, this is a whole lineage that's being liberated through the gate activation. And the thing about it is when you, whether, it's more powerful when you consciously engage, but whether you are engaging or not, you on the soul level are contributing this to the light codes that are going to be installed at the Venus temple in France. So as it's happening through you, it's showing up for everyone on the planet. That's how powerful this is.
That's why she's a tall Asian rose. So it means she stands out.
Yeah, it was very odd that I'm 5'10" and all my relatives are like 4 foot, 5'2". It didn't make sense, really. Right. And then my last name is Gold. My father shortened the name. It used to be Ao Young, and he's like, I'll just make it AU. And I thought, oh, that's the elemental symbol for gold.
Yes, it is.
Now my last name and now my last name is Honor. It's Rose Honor. So that's another thing right there, whatever that means. So,
well, and you may choose to actually, in your work, empower yourself by using your name as Rose Gold Honor.
I do. That is the funniest thing you said that, because on my card it's Rose in parentheses AU. Honor, because people, it's really weird. People want to go to Chinese acupuncturists for some reason. They think we're more whatever. We have a better ability, which is not true. But my other friend said you should put your Chinese name in. So it is Rose Ao Honor.
Yeah. So this gate activation that's happening right here, it's got these aspects, okay? We call this a semi-sextile, 30 degrees. It's activating your solar Neptune. And remember, in the sky, I told you, let me go back here, right? Jupiter and Neptune is in the sky there. And Jupiter and Neptune are activating. Remember, this is your solar chart, your solar Neptune. And look where it is. It's in your solar first house. The first house is the house of the self, how you know yourself. And for your solar house, it's in Pisces. Pisces is that unified source field. that we broke into the sacred feminine, the sacred masculine, that we identified as Sophia and Christ. Neptune, as the ruler of Pisces, is the pipeline to source, your personal pipeline. And the analogy that I use to describe this is, if you've seen, like in those old 60s movies, you know, you're in the office of the president and he's got this red phone on the desk and he picks it up and it's a direct line to Moscow. Yes. And he's talking, that kind of a pipeline, direct pipeline to source. Your ability to communicate with source, with your inner being that is an extension of source, is being activated in the sky by Neptune and by Jupiter. And Jupiter, whatever it touches, it amplifies, it expands. So it would take like if you were to light a flame, right, a match, compare that match to like a bonfire.
There you go.
I'm not sure what's happening with my connection, other than that the light of this work is so bright that we get a lot of interference from the dark forces. So that could be it. But anyhow, what I wanted to tell you is that through this evolutionary path of this year up until your birthday in June, this ascension path for you is getting to know yourself as being a direct conduit of, being in direct communion with source, with your inner being. And this activation of the throat chakra, which has to do with communication, the gate of communication, is the perfect divine timing for this to be activated for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
My God. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. There's a lot more here that I could talk about, but I know we're running short on time. I know we've lost our connection twice. So I wanted to just allow an opportunity for anybody that's got any questions that I could answer, or yourself, Rose, any questions that I can answer.
I'll open it up to, if you want, why don't you put everybody back on so we can see everybody, and let's see who else would like to ask a question. Yeah, let's go. All right, please feel free to ask a question of Sophia, Mona Lisa.
Yes,
Helen. If you could just keep going on your charts, it's fascinating to learn all the different little things. I don't know what everybody else thinks, but I thought
yeah, whatever you guys, if you're open to that, I'll do whatever you guys want. What do you guys, 5 more minutes? If there's
questions, first we want to make sure it's questions. Any questions?
Well, it's up to you guys. Do you want to see more of the chart? Raise your hand if you want to see more of my chart, or would you like to ask a question of Sophia? It's up to you guys.
Well, we can do both if that's okay. I can answer some questions now and then go back to your chart and share a little bit more on that.
Okay, whatever you guys want. This is your meeting. You guys have any questions? Quick questions for Sophia?
All right. Just
No?
wanted to give it short.
No?
Okay, so let me go back to the chart. I'm happy to do it.
Oh, by the way, Sophia, I understood that today is actually Mary Magdalene's birthday.
I don't know about that, but thank you for sharing that. I know that there's a Mary Magdalene feast day that happens, I think, in July, but I didn't know that today was the actual birthday.
It is considered as her birthday.
Wow, thank you for sharing that with us. Okay, so, you know, the whole reason that I wanted to share this is so that everybody understands how significant each of you are in terms of, you know, the way that the universe works. The energies inform us and we inform the energies. It's this very dynamic co-creation. And I wanted to demonstrate how significant each person is at these gate activations when we're installing these rose gold Christo-Sophia light codes at these temples, how they are actually contributing to the light codes on an individual personal soul level to them. So I hope that this demonstrates the significance of that. So what we have here next is that square. This is Aquarius to Taurus. It's a 90-degree angle. We call that a square. Now, the energetic effect of a square, right? This is a 90-degree angle. Anytime you have an astrological square aspect, it is providing you an opportunity for a breakthrough in consciousness. And what we see happening here, if we go back up here, in the sky, we've got the North Node, and it's on the ascendant of this particular chart. The North Node acts as the cosmic GPS for humanity in terms of what humanity is evolving towards. So when you get in your car and you turn on your GPS, it's giving you the path, the directions to arrive at a specific destination. Likewise, humanity as a whole, and each of us individually, we are expanding, we are evolving towards a specific destination. And the North Node in your chart is the indicator for where you are evolving towards, where humanity, in terms of the North Node in the sky, is evolving towards. And so we've got the North Node in the sky right here in Taurus. What that's all about is that humanity is evolving towards more and more embodiment. And with this square to Aquarius, remember what I said, Aquarius is all about your multi-dimensional reality. And so embodying in our bodies, right, that physical sacred vessel, embodying more and more and more of our multi-dimensional self, more of our soul, who is an extension of Source that is omnipresent, embodying more of that within our actual physical vessels. And so this square is providing that breakthrough opportunity to, again, just using that phrase again, kicking it up a notch, to really bring more and more of ourselves into this sacred vessel at this time. And for Rose, you'll notice this little glyph down here. It kind of looks like a moon with a cross on the bottom. That is the glyph for Black Moon Lilith. And Black Moon Lilith represents all the ways in which we are vilified and demonized by that whoever is out there that is judging us, that is criticizing us, and we often internalize that dialogue and we'll take that on. And so what this is telling me is for Rose specifically, any way that she has internalized any labels that are demonizing her, villainizing her, tearing her down in any way, any of those labels that she has taken into herself, she's being freed from that. And part of that being freed from that is creating the space for more of her multidimensional self to flow in and fill up those spaces. Does that make sense to you, Rose? Yeah,
growing up, I was labeled, well, I had an abusive mother, so it was, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're blah, blah, blah. So then in school, I was bullied all the time because I was Asian. I was the only Asian. And also I was very awkward. And I mean, you name it. I mean, glasses, like Miss Nerdy, awkward, whatever you call me. So yeah, I got bullied in school. I got bullied at home. So yeah, I had to do a lot of forgiveness and ho'oponopono for everybody who did that to me.
Right.
So I think I have done it.
Right. And remember, for you in the sky at this gate activation, we've got Saturn, and it's also activating your natal Saturn. And remember, with Saturn, you're dealing with lineages. So what country are you from in Asia?
My mother's from Hong Kong. My father's from China.
So there's a lot of demonization of the Chinese culture. There's
Yeah.
a lot of demonization of the Asian culture because some people cannot tell the Japanese from the Chinese, from the Thai, from the Vietnamese, and they just put it all in together and say those Asians, right? And
True, actually, yeah, I can't even tell the difference sometimes. Yeah.
And so it's really easy for people in the West to lump everybody in the Asian countries together and just put a label, a vilifying label on all Asians,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then we know,
Absolutely.
of course, that there are labels that are vilifying towards the Chinese culture as well. So not only for you, it's really important to remember that because Saturn is in the sky, it brings in that tribal lineage, but also because it's activating Saturn in your chart, even more so. There's a lot of tribal lineage clearing that's happening through you. And when that happens through you, Rose, it clears for all of your ancestors, and it clears for all of your descendants that have not yet been born.
Wow.
Oh my God, you know what? Bill said this to me last week. He said, we're clearing your ancestors, and we do a lot of muscle testing, and he said it to me last week. What you just said, he said that I was doing that.
Yeah.
That comes to me when I'm in the sun.
Yeah.
When he channels in the sun, he gets that from God.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Right.
Wow.
So
Oh my God.
good. Thank you for validating that. So this next, this next aspect is what we call a trine. It's 90 degrees. And with a trine, you're going to have an element interfacing with the same element. So let me just back up. There are 4 elements for the signs. There's air, water, earth, and fire. Each of those elements have 3 signs. And so we see Aquarius as an air sign. This is the sign of Gemini. It's an air sign. Up here is Libra. It's the other air sign. So whenever you have a trine, which is a 120 degree aspect, you're always going to be working with the same element. And with the air element, remember what I said earlier, you're dealing with the realm of consciousness. The realm of consciousness with air. And a trine aspect is a very flowing, very harmonious, very supportive flow of energy. And so you could kind of imagine that like if you were on a river on an inner tube and the river is just carrying you down the stream. That's the quality of that flow of energy. And those energies are blending together. So if you think about your primary colors, we learned probably in kindergarten, if you mix, red and blue, you get purple, right? You mix blue and yellow, you get green. So it's that blending of the energies where you're getting something new, something greater than, and a very harmonious flow. And so in the sky here, let's go back and look. We've got Isis. Isis represents the cosmic Sophia. So in the mystery schools, we teach as above, so below, as within, so without. So when you're talking about Venus in the sky representing the sacred feminine, right? That sacred feminine principle, the black part of the swirl of the yin yang. You've got the sacred feminine and the as above, but we each contain within us also the sacred feminine. Likewise, we each have that sacred masculine, as above, so within. Isis represents the cosmic Sophia, right? The Sophia in the as above. The Magdalene on your chart represents your embodiment of Sophia, the Sophia in the as below. But here we're dealing with Isis here, the cosmic Sophia, and look at what she's activating. She's activating your sun, your solar sun, and your solar Mercury. And if you can see, there's a little R here. Mercury was retrograde when you had your last birthday. Anytime a luminary body is retrograde, That is a focus of energy that is pulling you within yourself. We have a huge tendency to focus our energy outside of ourselves into the external landscape. This flow of energy is pulling you in. Mercury is the cosmic messenger, communicating with your inner realm, and the sun fuels whatever it touches. And so here with the realm of consciousness in Gemini, the cosmic messenger is pulling your energy in to communicate with your realm of consciousness, and the sun standing right here is fueling that your ability to communicate with that inner consciousness. And what is the inner consciousness that's being activated here for you to communicate with? Your Sophia consciousness.
Wow. Okay.
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 All right. And then this here is what we call an inconjunct. So normally we see things that are opposite of each other. When you're dealing with the circle, you know, 180 degrees is an opposition, right? This is across from this, 180 degrees. On one side or the other, that brings us to 150 degrees. That's called an inconjunct. The effect, the energetic effect of an inconjunct tells us that there has been a tendency to either get stuck in what was keeping you shackled so that you could not manifest, or, you know, and when you could not manifest, you were not able to be aligned with your soul purpose, right? What does the North Node tell us? This is the glyph for the North Node. It's where you're evolving towards in your evolutionary expansion. So you can either be shackled, or you could be evolving towards where you're supposed to be evolving towards, but you can't do both. The effect of an inconjunct is an either or effect. But with the inconjunct, you have a choice. You can choose to stay stuck in that. I can either do this or I can do that. Or you can expand yourself and say, okay, how can I do this and that? Shifting from either or to this and that, embodying both at the same time. And so with this gate activation, feeling shackled in your ability to manifest who you are as a multidimensional being has kept you feeling frustrated in terms of your ability to achieve what you might call like a soul purpose, right? What I'm here to do. And so with this effect here, you, again, because you've been given the keys to freedom here with this gate activation, this is saying now, whenever you get stuck, because that's what happens in this 3D world, this doesn't mean you're shackled, it's just stuck. So you can continue to evolve and figure out how to get yourself unstuck. It's not an either or situation. And how can you get yourself unstuck? By calling on the magic of Merlin. Merlin is a consciousness that alchemizes. Do you understand what alchemy is?
Not exactly.
In the stories, we see how, you know, alchemy is about turning lead into gold. Okay.
Oh, okay. I got it.
Basically what it's doing is it's taking something and it's transforming it into a higher frequency. So here, the medicine that you're being given is, and this is emotional. Cancer, which is a water sign, is hugely emotional. All the water signs are emotional. Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. But Cancer specifically has to do with emotions related to the mother, emotions related to the home that you grew up in, whether or not you felt safe, whether or not you felt protected, whether or not you felt nurtured and nourished. And so what this is telling me is that when you start feeling stuck, that it's an emotional wound from feeling unsafe that you can clear quickly by taking that emotion and raising it to a higher frequency, which is totally different than having cosmic forces impede your ability to manifest. Do you understand the difference?
Say that one more time then, because maybe I don't. I mean, okay, yeah, because I'm trying to understand this. I'm taking notes at the same time. I mean, raising to a higher frequency to get unstuck. I usually just try to connect to true source and balance my chakras and go ground and release whatever doesn't serve me. Or Bill has these crystals now. I ground in these clear quartz crystals and I just release it to the tree because I have been raised that way. I was emotionally abused as a child, so that makes sense.
So what I'm hearing from you in terms of the ways that you have been clearing that stuff is very earth element related. Not that working with crystals and trees and grounding into the earth, there's no impugnment on my part regarding it, just bringing into your awareness that those are earth element modalities. And so what I recommend, because this is a water element, is to find a way that you can engage water element modalities, whether it's like if you have a pool, getting into the pool or the hot tub, taking a shower, drinking more water, engaging more of the water element to help you clear those emotional feelings that are coming up and getting you stuck in the moment. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah. One of the things that we do is homeopathy. You might say we use what came to me was use a water vial that's clear. We have filtered water, and we put our memory or emotion inside the water vial. And then there's this like they'll go down your back of your back, which is your spine, which stores a lot of the memories of what this resonates with. And using the water element, we neutralize that emotion. And that's what you're talking about, water. That's what we use. That's what we do.
Yeah, water has memory. We've been doing this for years. And that's how I use homeopathy on my patients and myself. I will hold a vial of water. I believe the receiver is the left hand, and it vibrates and I ask to imbue the emotion. I go back in time. Is it this lifetime or past lifetime? How old was I? What happened? I have an emotions kit. And then I put the vibration down frequency, say I was 5 years old and I had this trauma, put it in the water, then I hold on to it and put it on my sacral chakra. And then I do this breathing and we hit the back points, which is the NAT protocol I do with my patients. And then we clear it and we muscle test. We've been doing this for years.
We test if the body goes weak or after we think about it. So if it's strong, we think about it, that means okay, it means our body's not weak by that thinking about that memory anymore.
Right.
I've cleared so many emotions from this and past lifetime with the water.
Beautiful. Thank you for explaining that process, because that is a beautiful representation of the kind of alchemy that I'm referring to here with this effect. And so the main thing I want you to be aware of is that now that you have been liberated from all of these things that have been impeding your ability to manifest, doesn't mean you're not gonna, stub your toe or get tripped in a pothole, right? So any of that emotional stuff that comes up, start more consciously engaging that process that you've been working with. And it's showing me here that process that you're speaking to is very, very much a part of your evolutionary expansion. And so sharing that alchemical process with others, because see, this energy is in your natal chart. It's in your natal 5th house and your natal 6th house. See how the North Node is in the 5th house, Merlin's in the 6th house. So what this is telling me, 5th house is all about your creativity, the way that you create. 6
Yeah.
hours is your day-to-day life. And so and with this being connected to your North Node, your soul as a soul being is intended to use this alchemy to creatively alchemize these emotional wounds in others. And
Yes, I've been doing this on my patients for years. It works. I would love to be able to do a demo for all the members in this group.
It's just never got any traction. This is what we've been clearing ourselves.
But now it will, because with this gate activation and this in conjunct is saying, before it was one or the other. I could either do this or I could do that. But now you can do it all. You can do it both. It's the and.
Wow.
And I can do this, and I can do that, and I can do more.
It's so validating because we have been doing this for years on both of us. We're both creating, and this was Bill's intuitively said, let's take a water vial, create homeopathy, and put the vibrational frequency of that trauma from this lifetime or past lifetime, because your soul knows. You can't remember what happened 10 lifetimes ago, but we've been clearing that. Also clearing my patients, although I don't tell them exactly, because they may not believe in that, but I just tell them to, like, here, take a vial, hold this, and just think about what bothers you. And I clear it with the NAET, and that's homeopathy, and that's clearing what we're doing.
I give it like a computer analogy. When you do Alt Control Delete, you see the number one task that's up there. You try to take that largest emotion and collapse that, and that frees you up with energy.
And Bill, let me tell you, I love that analogy of the Alt Control Delete, because anything to deal with electronics is the air element. So you've got the air element engaging with the water element here. And so, yes, that's the effect of it.
Wow. And I know, as I remember me, I am an air, you call me air girl, because the Chinese are the air, I believe. The blacks are the water. He's fire.
The white people are fire. And
the Native Americans are earth. Is that
the Aborigines, the Native Americans, they're the earth protectors. So,
yeah, it makes sense. Everything you're saying makes so much sense, and that's what I've been doing all this time, and it's working. I can see what we've been doing is really working, and working on my patients as well.
Wonderful. And so what I want to drive home again is that all of these codes that are being activated in your natal chart, in your solar chart, you're contributing all of that medicine to the Christo-Sophia light codes that are going to be installed at the Venus temple in France. And so as this is happening through you, it opens it up for it to happen for everybody else on the planet.
That's what I said. I said, Rose, we're learning right now. We're uploading everything up to the consciousness for when it's ready to be spread worldwide. So it's like it's a huge cloud of knowledge. Our Akashic records are becoming more accessible, I believe.
Well, and it is spreading worldwide, because with this Galactic New Earth Project, where we are installing these codes at each of these 7 temples around the planet, in the 8th month, we are going to be connecting all of those temples and bringing all of those light codes online. It's creating the new light structure, the light grid for the new Earth. That's what's happening. This is a huge deal. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We've gone overtime. It's 8:40, but oh my goodness, thank you so much. Oh, this is amazing. I'm sorry we went overtime, guys. I would love to, is there anything else, Sophia, that you need to? I mean, do we have time for questions? I want to make sure everyone is aware that we're overtime. It's 8:40, but do you guys have any other questions for Sophia? Let's just open it up to everyone. Anyone have anything else to ask? If not, I want to do announcements and a closing prayer, if everyone is okay with that.
Well, let me just share really quickly, and this is just coming through right now. So for those of you that are here, you're getting a blessing. Normally what I do at the gate activations, you see here where everybody can connect with me if they want to get a gate activation, which is very similar to what I did with Rose. And this is a special price that I give to people that are involved in the project. But for those of you that are showing up here now, if you would like to have the experience of what I did for Rose for yourself with this gate activation that's happening next Monday at the throat chakra, I will give you a 50% discount. I will do it for $54.
Wow. Oh my God. Thank you so much.
Also, if you want to stay in touch with my work, I invite you to go to my website, and a little pop-up will say, you know, to sign up for my newsletter. All the work that I'm doing with this project, I'm sending out the announcements and the recordings and everything through my newsletter. So by subscribing to my newsletter, it's the best way to stay in touch with what I'm doing.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Oh, you got, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Sophia, for doing that for us. I hope we all take advantage. This was amazing. Oh, yeah, go ahead. You wanted to share, unmute yourself, Sharon. I think you're muted. Did you want to, oh, you just wanted to say yes? I could, did you just want, anyone have a question? Everyone is okay? Oh,
yeah, I just
you.
wanted to say that I had Sophia do mine and it was amazing. And I would definitely recommend. It's just, I mean, as you guys have seen, she gives you so much information that really validates what you're going through. And it's so worth it. It really is.
Yay. Thank you, Carol. Thank you.
The real value is, one, knowing who you are as a soul being, and two, knowing how significant you are here on the planet and for humanity. To me, that's the true value.
Yes, I believe, absolutely, total agreement. I just want to do one announcement and we'll do a closing prayer. So this